Oh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when this finds you. As you know, I try to upload every other Monday at 6:30 a.m. so I can get some information out to you. And came across some quotes that um, I was reading through some stuff. Came across quotes that I had come across some years ago, and it's not all of them. It's just a few. And I actually have a book somewhere, and I have books everywhere, but I have a book somewhere. There's a real concentration on Thomas Jefferson. I'm gonna read you a quote or two from him, but I'm just gonna give you some quotes from early days. Well, I guess I could call them founders quotes. But Ben Franklin didn't own slaves, but Ben Franklin did make this comment: "Why increase the sons of Africa by putting them in America, where we have so fair an opportunity by excluding all blacks and tawnies of increasing the lovely white and red?" Now that came from a essay that Franklin did in 1751, titled "Observation Concerning the Increase of Mankind." And so I told you in a previous video that the gates, the prison gates, were actually opened up overseas, and they told them, "We'll let you go as long as you don't come back." And so TJ, old Thomas Jefferson, I advanced it. Therefore, as a suspicion only that the blacks, whether originally a distinct race or made distinct by time or circumstances, are inferior to the whites in the endowments of both body and mind. And he actually made that speech in the year 1785. And, it's just amazing. Ben Franklin made that statement. And he was one of the biggest abolitionists. Thomas Jefferson made his statement, and he was around there messing with old girl Sally from the Valley, and Abe Lincoln. And I keep having people tell me that the information I talk about where some presidents having black ancestry have been disproven. Well, the mere fact that they said that, when I said Dwight Eisenhower is part half black, just tell me they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Because the whites, Eisenhower's mother was that black. Her nickname was that Black Lynx girl. Her last name was Lynx. And there was a Lynx family that was black, and there was a Lynx family that was white. That's why they designated her as that Black Lynx girl. So the white Eisenhower's mother was black. And so the mere fact that they try to hide this stuff, even black people don't want to believe it. But then we want to turn around and say all of our credit gets taken away by whites. But Abe Lincoln, and Abe Lincoln's law partner, his daddy's law partner, said that the guy that they thought was supposed to be Abraham Lincoln's daddy was infertile, so he couldn't produce kids. And it's information out there that Abe's mama slept with a slave. And the information out there that Lincoln's mama was from Ethiopia. So if Lincoln's mama was from Ethiopia and the daddy was a slave, what did they make Lincoln? But Abe Lincoln said this. And if you just look at Abe Lincoln's life story, you know everything happened to him. He had to be black. But Lincoln said that there's a physical difference between the white and the black races, which I believe will forever forbid the two races living together. While they do remain together, there must be the position of superior and inferior. And as much as any man, I'm in favor of having a superior position assigned to the white race. If you pay attention to what Lincoln said, he could pass as white. So he wanted to make sure he maintained the superior position that was assigned to the white race. He didn't say his race, he said the white race. So you got to understand words. But he made that comment in some debates in 1858 with a gentleman named Stephen Douglas. And they were actually debating each other when they were trying to get control of the Illinois General Assembly. And as you know, Lincoln never won until he won the presidency. But that same speech, he actually said, I will say then that I am not, nor ever have been in favor of bringing about in any way the social and political equality of the white and black races. See, he's still not telling you what he is. Because back then, they identified who they were, if you couldn't do it. And one of them presidents, was it Jackson, Andrew, whoever wasn't Lincoln's vice president, I always get Jackson and Johnson mixed up, Andrew. And so the one that wasn't Lincoln's vice president that actually won a presidency, um, his brother was sent to a school for blacks only. So if his brother was sent to school for blacks only, he couldn't have been white, huh? Not back then, anyway. And so, even thinking about the Emancipation Proclamation, it says Lincoln, it freed the slaves, but if you go back and you really study history, Lincoln didn't control the Confederacy. So Lincoln couldn't free nobody with no Emancipation Proclamation, because he didn't control that part of the country. And that's part of the reason blacks still struggle as a group on a large scale. A guy named Henry Berry. We have, as far as possible, closed every avenue by which the light may enter the slave's mind. If we could extinguish the capacity to see the light, our work will be complete. They would then be on the level of the beast of the fields, and we then should be safe. And Henry Beard made that speech in the year 1832, and before the Virginia House of Delegates. And they were talking about abolishing slavery back then. And see, what you need to know, Henry Beard was actually a slaveholder at the time of his speech. And, he advocated for a slow, a gradual diminishing of it, and said he really wanted to be eventually abolished, because he did say that slavery is a grinding curse upon the state. And so, but he also did say he is for maintaining the bonds by which we hold his property. The evil of slavery was gradually entailed upon us and can only be gradually removed. Now, it didn't have to be gradually removed. You could have just immediately done it. But they want to slowly keep that that money coming in. And so that's just some of the thoughts I have. Like I said, I got some books I gotta find with some information, a lot of information in it. And I just read so much, and that stuff started getting crossed up in my mind. But it's a lot more quotes been made, by your current White House occupant. He's made a lot of them, and but all you can focus on is the previous occupant. But I don't know what to say, other than, once again, we love our oppression, and we actually getting back to loving our oppressors too. I mean, if I give you a glass full of cyanide and a glass full of acid, which one would you choose to drink? And why did I say that? Because you justified voting for one because you dislike the other. So, it's been other things said, Nixon has been painted as a bad guy, but Nixon actually did some things for black folks that were ignored because he's Republican. Dwight Eisenhower did a lot of stuff for black folks, ignored because he's Republican. We love JFK, and we don't even understand the history of JFK with black folks. We love LBJ, but we overlook the history of LBJ. We hated Barry Goldwater because of his position on the 64 Civil Rights Bill because he said the things that were LBJ had done were unconstitutional. As soon as if the court made them constitutional, he would support it. But Barry Goldwater had been supporting blacks for over 2 decades by the time he threw his hat in the ring for president. Thomas Dewey, he didn't win the presidency, but that's who ran against Harry Truman. And Harry Truman sent spies to Thomas Dewey's event and stole all of Thomas Dewey's words and then presented them like they were his own. Because Thomas Dewey had been doing things for blacks already before he ever ran for the presidency. And so Truman found out what Dewey was doing for blacks and talking about doing for blacks if elected, and he ran that on his own platform. Calvin Coolidge did a lot of stuff for blacks, but he's Republican. But it's amazing that all of these Republicans have done things for blacks, but our Democratic slave bosses have told us the Republicans are our enemy. Gerald Ford took your Black History Week to a whole month, but he's largely forgotten. I mean, we some sick in the head individuals, I tell you. Because our Democratic handlers say this where you need to be, boy. This where you need to be, girl. You get on this side. Don't you move from this side unless I tell you to. And because I like the stronghold on you, I'm not going to ever tell you to move. And we can't think far enough to move ourselves. We say we're free thinking people, but we don't think at all. Solomon Burke say none of us are free. But I even put in the book about a lot of stuff that Democratic mayors and other legislators have done to black people. And I searched for all the stuff, and I included it all in the book, but I searched for all the stuff that were done to black people in the 20th century and who was in charge of it at that city and state at the time. And only one person I found that had ever did something detrimental to black people doing the stuff I researched was a Republican. Every other person that had did bad stuff to black people were Democrats. But we say the Democrats are our friend. Who started the KKK? They wanted to keep us in fear so bad that they created a separate enforcement crew called the KKK to make sure we stayed in line. But we vote for them. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. And, it's really sad. And like I said, them black Democratic politicians get invited in. They throw them a few little pig feet and tell them keep the rest of us in line, manage your people for us. And instead of 2 pig feet, we're going to give you 3. And each year you keep them in line, we're going to throw another pig feet in there. Then if you're really good, we're going to let you get a full meal and give you a plate of chitlins. I think chitlins is misspelled. I think it's supposed to be a S at the front of it instead of a C. But that's how we get treated. We have been conditioned as a people to reject any type of natural leader. And we've been conditioned to accept who the system appoints to lead us. Have you ever thought about that? And then one guy even asked me some years ago, why does Reverend Al Sharpton get more credibility than Reverend James Manning up in Harlem, New York? And the mere fact that he asked that question told me I didn't need to answer because he has no understanding of what he just asked. And I mean, I could have been real ugly with him and went on and told him why, but he's the type of guy that was going to stay stuck in his position. And that's a problem with black folks. You can slap us all over the head, all over the face. I mean, we can take it and pound it in your head, but your mind's so made up that you're going to reject anything that goes against what your masters have taught you. You don't, the problem with us is we don't trust each other. And that comes from slavery. You know, when they got there, Harriet Tubman and all them other people on these different underground railroads throughout the country. See, we were just talking about Harriet Tubman. It was a lot more than that. There was pockets all over the country. Harriet Tubman said, hey, let's go to freedom. Man, what she talking about? What he talking about? I don't want to go to freedom. Master feed me good. And they want to go back and tell the master what the plans were. So we still dealing with that mentality right today. You got to go report the master. Report the master. What you doing? Oh, come here, let me pat you on the head like a good little dog. Yeah, that's how master treat us. Good boy. Remember that old commercial? Sit, Ubu, sit. Good boy. That's how they treat us. We ain't figured it out yet. It's sickening. So we run around here. We've put so much focus on politics that we can't focus on nothing else. Name me one other ethnic group in this country that focuses on politics before anything else, economic empowerment. Name me one. Don't tell me white people because they controlling the economics. Don't tell me Jews because they controlling the economics. Don't tell me anybody from the Far East because they getting on top of the economics. So how is all these other people on top of economics and not really putting a total emphasis? I mean, if they from the Far East, you know, they don't focus too much on politics at all. But how these other people coming up economically and they're not actively participating in politics? Because politics, when you focus energy, effort, and a lot of energy and effort on politics, it actually slows down economic progression. And that's why they install black leadership to get us focused on politics instead of economic empowerment. That's why they were trying to destroy Booker T. Washington and Marcus Garvey and S.B. Fuller and A.J. Gaston, Reginald Lewis, all them others, Thomas Fortune, Carter G. Woodson say if you keep voting the same way for several generations, you deserve exactly what you get. And we getting exactly what we deserve because we won't change our voting habit. We the only solid voting bloc in this country for one party in these type of numbers. 95%, 90 to 99%, 90 to 98% voting for one party. So why are they gonna give y'all anything? If you start focusing on education and economics, I guarantee you your politics will change. But see, long as you don't have either, especially the economic side, you're going to keep voting for the person that promised you the most, to do the most for you. And it's all lies because they ain't delivered on nothing. So the less economics and education you have, the more you're going to vote for people who promise you goodies and freebies. They don't even realize that. Politician's job ain't to give you stuff anyway. Politician's job is to protect your rights that the Constitution was written and put in place for, to protect your God-given rights. Because your politicians are supposed to be beholden to the Constitution. They sit there and put their right hand on the Bible and say they're going to uphold the Constitution. But see, the question is, which Constitution are they upholding? The organic Constitution that was written in the 1700s? Or are they upholding the 1871 Constitution, which changed the United States into a corporation? That's what you need to understand. So they're not lying when they put their hand on the Bible and say they're going to uphold the Constitution, because they upholding the corporate Constitution, not the Constitution that's supposed to protect the citizens. See, when they started letting lawyers in, politics was done in this country. It was done. And that's why I tell you, the original 13th Amendment had nothing to do with slavery. It had to do with making sure you kept all lawyers and nobility out of political positions. Period. Because it said they knew if they ever got a stronghold lawyers, they were going to destroy this country. And look at what we live in this country. We live in a destroyed country. And we think we have freedom. We've been living under socialist dictates for a long time. But they keep telling you capitalism is what's doing it. We living under socialism right now. It just doesn't look like Venezuela socialism. But they keep telling us capitalism that's bad. No, it's socialism. They keep telling you, your Democrats keep telling you live in a democracy. No, you live in a constitutional republic. But they conditioning you because democracy means majority rule. Even if they're wrong. So long as 51% agree to a wrong thing, it's going to be bad for everybody. So that's why they keep telling you democracy. Now, if you go and study your history, you will see that every last democracy that's ever been a form of government in the world has always ended up in despotism, in the hand of despots. But see, you ain't going to get that in no history class. You ain't going to get that in no U.S. history class. You ain't going to get that in no world history class. They ain't really teaching us nothing about history, real history. They teaching us a manufactured history that they want us to know. But we so focused on politics. Get you some money in your community. I guarantee you, your politics gonna change. I guarantee you. Because once you start having something to lose, then you start thinking, I got something to fight for now. But when you don't have nothing to lose and you depended on others for jobs, and you let them worry about being able to provide for you and your family, then you don't have nothing to you worry about losing your job, but in essence, you don't have really nothing to lose because you can go get another job. So you don't have nothing to fight for, long as it's the company's objective to fight to make sure you can keep a job. But when you start owning business and now you start looking at them tax laws, you start looking at, oh, if I vote for this person over here, the bills they put in place are going to hurt my business, then you're going to change the way you vote. Trust me. But you keep voting for people and you keep cutting your own strings. You keep pulling yourself up the rope. And then every time you go to the ballot box, you cut the rope and fall back to the bottom again. So you keep somebody throw you another rope down. I'm gonna try to pull you up this time. Then by the time you done got tired, you done pulled, you done took a break. By the time you climb halfway up the rope, another election come around, you vote again for the same people. They keep cutting the rope. Just don't make sense. If you're gonna keep cutting the rope that you're trying to pull yourself up on, you might as well stay at home and not vote. That's why I don't vote anymore. I don't see anybody on any ballot that I'm willing to support now. I haven't for years. Excuse me. For years, I haven't seen it. When I had to write myself in for president one year, I knew I was done at that point. When had to write myself in for Congress, I was done. On the same ballot that year, I wrote myself in for president, Congress, and Senate. I was done. Because I'm looking at the choices. I'm like, man, I got cat poop on one side to vote for, and I got dog poop on the other side to vote for. People keep saying I went and voted for the lesser of two evils. You still voted for evil. Thessalonians, 1 Thessalonians 5:22 say, remove yourself from all appearances of evil. But I voted for the lesser of two evils. When you going to start voting for the greater of two goods? Now, it's kind of hard to do that because they never on the ballot. That's by design. If they do happen to sneak in, they're going to do one term and they gone. Unless they play ball. So if your politician's been in for more than one, maybe two terms, that means they playing ball. And they exclude you from the game. It's not the objective to help the citizens. It's the objective to help the corporation. Y'all get caught up in all the stupid stuff. Oh, man, our first black president. No, it wasn't your first black president. He was number 8. And had black ancestry. Ain't got our first black female vice president. No, you didn't. You got your first Asian Indian female vice president. Dad got some Jamaican, but he's more British. And who owns India? British. So you got your first British female vice president. She just happened to have dark skin and went to a black university and pledged. You know what I'm saying? Y'all get caught up in all that silly stuff. I don't care about no pledging. You got to wake up. And sadly, I told somebody this not too long ago. I said, man, I said, just based on the behaviors and actions of us as a people, I said, I don't ever see us waking up. I said, I still have hope, a ray of hope out there. I said, because I know it's got to be some other people like me. I said, man, we've been lied to for a long time. I got to come from out of this foolishness. But then somebody reaffirms, stupid just keeps getting widespread. I ain't used that word in a long time. I think I used it twice already on this one. Man, it's sickening to me. Economics. Proper education, not system education. System education keeps you dumb. And why do you think they keep labeling more and more kids special ed? It becomes hard to remove a label for the rest of their life. And so system education is designed to keep you dumb. If you understand what word was said when the public school system was created, you might rethink public education. Because when the public school system was created back in the early 1900s, 1901, 1902, the person who created it said, I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers who are good at taking orders. What you think standardized testing is? You taking orders. You take orders all day at school. You go to work, you go to college, you take orders. You go to work, you take orders. You go to the military, you take orders. But if you start business for yourself, you're a thinker. You become a thinker. But if you remain an employee, you're just told what to do every day. If you become a soldier, you're told what to do every day. And I'm not putting it down. I'm just saying that was the design of the public school system. To control your mind. Have you think as little as possible. So the public school system and the job goes together. The public school system, what you call public education, self-education and entrepreneurship go together. So they're totally opposite of what the school system's teaching. Why don't the school system ever say, go to school, get a good education so you can start a business? Yeah, everybody keep repeating that same stuff. Go to school, get a good education so you can get a good job. You know what you have when you have a job? No control. Somebody else is always controlling and dictating your life and your economics because you followed what the system said to follow. Hey, I worked plenty of jobs before, and guess what? I was always unfulfilled. I mean, I worked with some great people in the past. I'll never take that away, and that's what made going to the job tolerable. Some of the people that I worked with, but the people I worked for, a lot of them were jackasses. They made life miserable for people. At least they tried to make life miserable. I knew I needed to do something different. My wife and I were still dating. I'm in retail management. It's dark when I go to work many days. It's dark when I get off many days. And I'm trying to act like I'm enjoying life. But I got to the point where I hated my job. My job was 10 miles from my house. 10 miles. There was no traffic when I got up to come to work in the morning. Everybody else was still in the bed. And my wife told me at the time, right after I quit, she said, you needed to get away from there. And I said, well, why? She said, you had become somebody I did not know anymore. That's what the job had created in me. That's what the job creates in a lot of you. They create a situation where you kind of change because you're trying to adapt to oppressive situations. I mean, I knew what my agenda was every day when I went to work because somebody else had outlined it for me. And you've heard me say before, the last thing I want to do is be stuck inside four walls all day long. And even when I got out the hospital and supposed to be on, and most days I was on my scooter or my crutches or something. And my wife said, you know, you really don't need to be moving unless you need to get up and bathe or go to the restroom. But sitting inside these four walls was just driving me crazy. Putting me in a hospital room where I couldn't see nothing but other parts of the hospital. Put me where I can see some trees or something. Let me see them. Put me where I can see at least the traffic on the street, something. I don't like sitting in four walls all day. I want to get up and go see. I want to go get some fresh air. I want to hear the birds singing. I want to see the sun. And we wonder why we develop all these health issues. We're sitting down all day. If you listen to all your doctors and medical experts that are credible, you know, not these people that just buying into the system, they will tell you that sitting down all day is the worst thing you can do for your health. We got to get up and move. So everything that the system is conditioning us to do is contributing to everything going on bad in our life. Our health, our economics, our relationships, our marriages, our relationship with our kids, our relationship with our parents, our relationship with our God. Because if you work retail, most Sundays you working. So, you know, I've changed my position now that I've studied more. You know, I'm not advocate of running back into a church building now. But back then I was a regular in church. But when I got into retail management, church went out the window because I was working on Sundays. So we don't even realize how much stuff the job takes away from us. How much stuff the job destroys us in our livelihood. I mean, when I quit that job where I was in that retail management position, I was actually scheduled for 7 12-hour days. Now, when I started off in that management position, I was scheduled for 5 days a week, 7 to 5. So I'm scheduled for 50. With my hour lunch break, I'm working 45 hours a week. Then next thing you know, we got a district manager who had been divorced several times because he worked too much. So guess what he came in and did, because he didn't have a wife at home. Well, I want the manager to work 6 days a week. So there we go. He said, well, not total 6. It's 5.5. I asked, well, do I have to get up and drive the same distance and put on clothes and come to work? Well, yeah. I said, well, that's 6 days. Well, no, you're only going to be scheduled for 5. I said, that's 6 days. I said, if I got to get up and come in, that's 6 days. And when I quit the company, I was scheduled for 7 12-hour days. And I never worked 7 12-hour days. I left. I quit. So if you given that much time to the job because the system controlled you to go get a job, why do you think one of the reasons for divorce excuse me, is right now? Your kids and your wife don't want quality time. They want quantity time. They want you. That's why your wife married you. She wants you and your time. She doesn't want you to. I mean, there's nothing wrong with setting aside times to go on a date, go dinner, whatever. But I'm saying she married you to be with you. She didn't marry you to have you going to work all the time and giving your best production to somebody else. I remember I went and interviewed. Excuse me. Well, I ain't gonna say interview. I went to interview, then I did orientation to become a financial advisor. And I went through the first day orientation, and it was multiple days. So went through the last day of orientation. Vice president who was running orientation said, well, because the question was asked, how many hours are y'all going to be expecting us to work per week to get started? And this guy said, well, in your first year, you're going to probably work about 100 hours a week. I said, every week? They said, well, yeah, you got to get established. You got to go hang out with high dollar clients and, trying to get them to buy our services and all that. And, so you have to go to dinners and parties and all that. I said, man, when am I going to have time for a life? And he goes, dude, well, he called me dude. He said, well, sir, I make about $250,000 a year. I said, how many hours a week do you work? He said, I work about 95. I said, when you going to enjoy it? Well, my wife really loves it. I say, well, yeah, that for now. And we just don't understand how we get so beholden to a job that we lose ourselves. How did I even get here? I started out talking about some of them quotes from some of them guys, old guys, talking about black people. I guess that's what happens when you just running off at the mouth like I do sometimes. But the system that has never shown love to us has conditioned us to show love back to it. And many of us do everything in our power to protect the system. But the system hasn't done anything to benefit us. I mean, they'll tell you they did, and we put some on paper. They done put, Biden put stuff in for Asian Americans. You saw all that stuff last month, whatever month it was, Asian American. And, then you have your other month, Proverbs 16, 18 month. And get all this stuff put in place for all these other people. But we keep being a loyal voting bloc, and we keep getting nothing. And we don't even realize it yet. We keep getting nothing for our loyalty. What's the cost of your loyalty? The system hasn't benefited us at all as a whole. How many black CEOs do you see in a Fortune 500 companies? How many have you seen historically? I think we've had a total of 15, 16 maybe in the entire history of this country. Did you hear me say Fortune 500? That means it's at least 500 companies at the top every year. And you've had 15, 16 blacks as CEOs. How many black sport franchise owners do you have? How many black people own a whole lot in Hollywood? I mean, it's just something to think about. We got to change our mind. We got to get away from this system teaching. We got to get away from this system education. We got to get away from this Democratic Party, it being the party for black people. Now, you say Republicans don't care about poor people because they're rich. Show me a poor Democrat. They got plenty of money too. It's amazing they can go take a position, pay $175,000 a year, have a average net worth of 800,000. I mean, 200,000 when they enter politics, and 2 years later, after one term, their net worth is $1 million. Give me some of that math all day long. And other people go to prison for that stuff. But you got all of these lawyers, in political positions at local, state, and national level. You got more black politicians than we've ever had. We had the half black president in 2 terms. We had 2 black attorney generals. Yet, we are still complaining about injustice. We are still complaining about unfairness. We got all these blacks in judge positions now, and want to post pictures over social media. Look at all these black women that became judges. Look at this, the youngest black judge in this county, state, or wherever he was, and and all these black people in political positions. And not only have things not gotten better, they've actually gotten worse. When you gonna come off that skin color? Zora Neale Hurston said, "All my skin folk ain't my kin folk." But we keep thinking the skin folk is kin folk. I don't care what color you are if we in a battle together. If we in this fight together, I don't care about your skin color. If we fighting for the same objective. Now, if you fighting for a different objective than me, and it's contrary to what I'm trying to accomplish, I don't care what color your skin is. I'm gonna push you out the hole because you detrimental to my well-being. And so it's a real sad day. I'm gonna find some more of that information one day. Not home right now because we're getting work done on the house. So I'm gonna have to find that stuff one day. Once go through all them boxes, and probably be a minute before I ever get to finding it. But just chew on this information for a bit, because we got a lot of enemies. We have more enemies within our race than outside of our race. I know it doesn't seem that way, but it doesn't seem that way because you don't understand who's behind the scenes pulling the strings on both races, the white versus black. We don't even understand who's behind the scenes pulling those strings. because they telling us where to focus. And so I'll cut it off for here and talk to you in a couple of weeks.